You're gonna save your sneeze for the live show? What's going on here?
I think it's suppressed at the moment, but anything can happen.
I'll give you a preemptive bless you.
Not making any promises.
Bless you in advance.
Thank you. Thank you, my son.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Welcome to another episode of Command Control Power. Hey guys, how are you doing? Jerry's in as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have to find him.
Yeah, Jerry, is that
for myself?
Is that a photo like you took of a well, or what's the story with that?
Yes, it's actually part of an art installation that is found on the grounds of this large art park in New York State, and the name escapes me. But we've mentioned it before on the show. And I
think I've actually been there. Yeah. I can't think of the name either, but yeah, that's I didn't know they had a artistic well there. Interesting.
Yeah, there was some. Well, actually, I'm not down a well. I'm looking up, taking the picture. I'm inside some sort of a hived cone thing that's made out of stone, and picture of the sky behind me. Yeah. I'll think of it before the end of the show in case anybody wants to go and recreate the shot.
Very cool. Very cool.
Super fans.
Yeah, super fans.
Command Control Power super fans. And maybe they could, do a short version of the drinking game.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. Well, I had some UniFi stuff last week or last time we recorded. I have a little more for today. Have you guys noticed this new feature called the Device Supervisor feature? Does that ring any bells?
Sounds familiar. I think I heard something about it.
Yeah, it must have come out recently because I just happened to find it in the interface after something had updated, and I noticed it actually in the first case associated with the LTE failover device that Jerry and I have used in our client locations and have talked about needing to be rebooted sometimes in the past. And, this is like a thing where it should just be standing by and then be ready to fail over. And sometimes it just doesn't do its job. And so we found that, occasionally you need to like proactively kind of reboot it. And I guess that's what this feature does. So the device supervisor feature in UniFi is found under power and resiliency, which is, I think, a new section in the device settings. And the explanation is it monitor device heartbeat and automatically recover silent devices. Meaning if they don't respond to a heartbeat, like a ping, I assume, from the UniFi, gateway or I guess controller, I guess they get power cycled or a command is sent to reboot it or something along those lines.
Interesting.
Yeah. So word to the wise, I think it could be a useful feature, especially again for those LTE backups, because they just sit there most of the time doing nothing and you hope they're there when you need them. But also could, in theory, you could enable on any UniFi device, as far as I can see, even like an access point or whatever, and it'll just reboot it if it, for some reason isn't performing properly. So see,
this is why I listen to the show.
Yeah.
To get these helpful tips. Yeah.
In the same vein of UniFi stuff, they seem to have upgraded, or they are in the process of upgrading if you run a UniFi server, they have changed it over to UniFi OS server. Have you guys heard about that? I don't know if you're running any on like a Mac Mini or anything like that.
I'm not, but I know you have been.
Yeah, we have a few legacy clients that are still on there. We've some of the ones that we don't keep in regular contact with, but we help manage. So we don't have them on a cloud key or the cloud controller yet, because we have to go on site to adopt them or at least work with them remotely. And there's some people that just don't contact well. But anyway, we have a Mac Mini that has a few sites still in there, and UniFi is moving over to the UniFi OS server, which apparently is a completely different database as well. So it's not just like an upgrade on if you're hosting. So it's like a completely different, like I think you have to readopt. There's like a whole process there that I haven't quite dug into yet. So don't quote me on the exact steps, but that's actually pushing us along to get those remaining clients off of a Mac Mini that are just kind of been hanging out there for years and get them into the cloud controller.
Yeah.
Joe, are you typing an email to a client because it's
I was texting back my wife. How come Sam doesn't get called out on that? Sam's
because I don't do that. I pay 100% attention to the show at all times.
Nice.
The clattering of the keys,
I'm so sorry.
Who does the post processing? Yeah.
That'll get you, Joe. You got to get a fancy keyboard.
already we're shortening the show, so now it's like we're down to 44 minutes.
Yeah, you can't take out the keystrokes, because if you take out all the likes and all the keystrokes, yeah, it's like a half hour at that point. So
That's
yeah,
right.
I hear you. All right.
You gotta leave those in, just like the automated recordings that you talk to. They're like, let me check that for you. Beep, beep, beep,
Yeah.
beep.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. So I got another UniFi thing here. Speaking of UniFi, in the UniFi corner, if it as it were. I was looking into this Ethernet surge protector thing again. I've talked about this on the show. Apparently, it's best practice if you mount a camera outside on the wall of the house facing out. Obviously, I believe you're supposed to put an Ethernet surge protector on the outside there, and then also like again on the inside. And I'm pretty sure no one actually does this. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like sound off in the comments. Send us your emails, because in practice I find that. So first of all, like, how do you find a ground? Like putting an Ethernet surge protector like connected to nothing doesn't do anything. Like it actually needs to be connected to a ground. So right. I mean, sure, like if you have, I don't know where you'd get a ground on the outside of the house. If you have like metal cladding or something, like maybe that counts as a ground. I don't really know. But yeah, I mean, if you do this and you have a good technique for how this can be incorporated into your network planning, I'd love to hear about it. Because I read about this a little bit on Reddit, and some people are saying like, yeah, I've bought them and I've just never installed them because it's just too complicated to actually find a place to do it. Some people will mount them in their rack. So which is probably better than nothing, because you can easily access a ground, or more easily access a ground in your rack if it's like in the basement, and you can go directly like Jerry did to a, copper grounding pole or something like that. Or, I guess there's ways of like, they make a, I think it's called like a DIN rail, and you can sort of like mount multiple of these UniFi Ethernet surge protectors to this rail, and the rail itself gets like run to a ground. Now, I believe that ground could also be literally into an electrical outlet, like the third prong, the actual ground. So maybe there's ways of doing it in the rack and in those ways. Alternatively, someone suggested this idea that for any outside devices, like anything mounted outdoors that you're worried is exposed to the potential for a lightning strike or a surge, you run them all into a single switch. That's kind of the sacrificial switch that's dedicated to the outdoor, connection. And then you use a fiber connection from that switch to like your gateway or to your main switch. And so then that fiber is kind of like an air gap, as it were, in terms of like, it's not going to conduct the lightning strike or a surge into the rest of your network. Now, I mean, it will ground out to something, like, which is probably your wiring, and that might jump to another device. I don't know, but it seems better than nothing to do that, or to have some kind of grounding in the rack. But yeah, I don't know. Any other thoughts on that alternative?
No, well, I can see that an access point could potentially be vulnerable to capturing a lightning strike, but I'm not sure about a camera per se. Obviously a camera could be taken out in a surge. That can happen on your system. So when you were reading up on this, Joe, what led you to read this Reddit thread? I mean, is this applicable to a job that you've been looking at or you're considering?
Not immediately, but I've looked into it in the past to try to mitigate this, this vector of like a lightning strike coming into the network after what you went through, a few years ago with like losing some equipment, and other clients that have had, it seems to me that certain clients have repeated issues with bad electrical wiring. And, I think I mentioned this on the show, but I talked to an electrician about this, and actually he said, yeah, in my own home, I lost, equipment multiple times over the years. And then I forget if he said I replaced or I installed in the first place grounding rods. So these are not lightning rods that go up on the roof. They are part of your home's electrical wiring, or in theory, they're part of it. Like they're literally very long copper like stakes that are driven into the ground that provide a really good, good conductivity into the ground. And that your like main circuit breaker panel, like your main, electrical wiring panel gets like run to, to this physical ground, so that the rest of your home wiring with all the grounds like that are in various outlets and things, like that actually goes somewhere. That actually goes to the ground, because the whole point is you're trying to provide a path to the ground rather than like have it just find the lowest, like whatever path it needs to find, which might go through all of your, sensitive equipment. He said after he installed that, like he had no more problems with losing equipment. So I'm convinced that the clients that have this issue, like repeatedly, where they've had, they've lost equipment, it happens again, things have to be reset or just replaced sometimes. Like, I'm convinced there's just a fundamental problem with their home. Like, it's an old home and the grounding rods are like corroded or just not making good contact, or maybe not there in the first place or something along those lines.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, if those homes with repeated issues, like you said, have to have something there. I've been thinking about this, and I haven't had like reports like that in quite a while. I mean, I guess I have less residential clients than I used to, but I know in certain areas around where I am currently in Fairfield County, there have been certain towns and stuff like that that are susceptible to these types of strikes. So you're probably seeing it more and more.
Yeah, I bet you're right.
And I'm sure there are listeners in other parts of the country deal with this probably on a regular basis, where sometimes in the Northeast we might have a storm or two, but this is not a problem that is ongoing, at least in the Northeast where Sam and I live.
Yeah, I mean, even here in Boulder, like I just got back into town after driving to Nebraska for a wedding over last weekend. And as the night we got back was I think the first day of summer. And it just so happened we had a crazy lightning storm, got like, lots of like fast rain, beautiful storm. Like it's always like, some of these storms are really actually interesting to experience. It's like fun, but of course in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, what's going to be killed by this storm? Like, what equipment am I going to lose in this storm? Because you just never know. Thankfully it was all fine. But yeah, you just wonder when that happens. And it does seem like we go through patterns where you get more of that and then it kind of goes back to normal. But yeah. You go ahead, Sam. You have something else on that?
No, not anything related to that. Just thinking of things that have happened to me over time lately, but
let's get to that. I want to say one more thing on network stuff, which is if anyone out there has tried this Speedify app, I just want to call attention to it while we're on the UniFi topic. It's unrelated to UniFi, but more so related to cellular. Speedify can combine multiple internet connections on cellular. So this has been on my mind again lately as I think about like a new iPhone and maybe an iPad. And, I'm probably not going to get an iPad, but if like the idea of having multiple iOS devices that can combine their internet connections using the Speedify app. So I haven't actually put this into practice. It's something I discovered through research, and I'm just curious if anyone out there has tried it, because I'm curious if it's an option to like improve your network resiliency on cellular or bandwidth, which is what it's supposed to do. So that's all I got for the network stuff.
Well, now you got me curious, so I'm looking at it. But I mean, obviously you can do this on hardwired networks if you got multiple ISPs, but I'm curious about this because it combines Wi-Fi and your cellular connection as well as others.
Right.
How this little device, like, for instance, with like cellular boosters that Verizon or AT&T might provide, you have to register your device with that booster. I assume a similar behavior has to occur, and it has to be connected to your network as well. And then somehow it just combines that. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, my understanding is like it actually takes the cellular data connection that's already on your iPhone and somehow combines that, like in theory, across multiple iPhones. So if like the example they gave is like you're an influencer and you want to like do a live stream from a football game or something, or like the World Cup is going on right now, right? So you could be so I've heard. I'm not a sports guy.
Oh, I know. I love the World Cup. I'm kidding.
I know you do. But so like let's say you're at a game, Sam, and you want to do like, oh, this is Sam from HCS reporting live, like you could have your one cell phone and you could be with Jen or someone like with their cell phone. And if you have Speedify on both, there's some kind of feature where like, let's say, she's on Verizon and you're on AT&T, or you're just both on Verizon or whatever, it can like use both connections simultaneously, kind of like a, bonded like connection that I used to use in the van when we were remote. to like, I guess it's for resiliency. If like one connection gets choppy, the other one keeps working and it just all keeps working, or it can combine the bandwidth of both into like one faster connection. In theory, again, I'd love to see this in practice because it just sounds magical to me.
Will it work with Mint Mobile as well?
This is a good question. Yeah. I mean,
if two phones have the same, your example, and not to harp on this too much, but if two phones have the same cellular carrier in a stadium that's got poor signal.
What was that?
I don't know. Someone's motorcycle.
Motorcycles driving.
Jerry did not react. So was it?
It's probably Jerry.
Yeah, he just sat there still as anything in that well.
No, that was me. I have a little gas. I'm sorry, guys.
I knew that was coming.
Of course, yeah. Oh man.
Broke my train of thought here.
I know.
If you have to, like, in those stadiums where it's hard to get signal and all that stuff, I guess I'm just thinking this through. It would be best to have two different carriers, because if you're both on one of the carriers and the signal is crappy, I can't imagine it being that good even bonded, but who knows?
Well, I think that's it. It's like, they could, like, if they're doing, what do they call it? Like network management kind of thing where, like somebody might have a better connection than somebody else because they're like throttling one person's connection and the other person is like working fine, and then they switch or something like that. So I assume if you combine more than two, also like it gets marginally better each time. Also, yeah, like you said, if you have multiple carriers, that would be even better, because chances are, like, if AT&T is degraded, Verizon works, or vice versa. But yeah, so if anyone out there has tried this in practice or has like a real world, reason to give this a try, we'd love to hear it and bring it to more listeners, because I think it's a cool thing to know about if it actually works, which again, we'll see.
Sure.
Interesting.
And it's subscription based, obviously.
Yeah, because I think they have to run like a server that kind of like is the endpoint that bonds all the rest together. It's just
right. But you could try this for a month. Let's say you had a special event and you were going to give it a whirl, and you could run a trial run. And let's say you were broadcasting your graduation, for a school or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
A little late for that, but in the season.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're dating the show, Jerry.
Yeah, there you go. You were quicker than I was, Sam. Nice. Oh man.
I was thinking about something not related to network, although I'll just throw a little chime in that says Optimum still sucks, but that's a whole other story because I've been having so much trouble with them.
Yeah.
I ran across something interesting related to mail and specifically with Microsoft and Google and some of their differences that I'm really starting to see more of in terms of, I'll say, built-in security. I think with Google, you can tack on additional features for security, but they're not as all there, I'll say, as Microsoft in my digging around. But one of the things that, just to get right to the point, one of the things I've been seeing is something called impossible travel, which on the show might know about, but just for the audience, for anyone that might not, it's basically considering a login of a user that say they log in New York one moment, and 3 seconds later, they log in from, Greece, let's say. And that would constitute impossible travel, that user's not there in two places at the same time. And that's likely a malicious type of login, and they would flag it. And so Microsoft is really, really good at reporting these things. And then it can report it through an API to like another tool. Like we use Avanan for email filtering. And what I found out, because we had a breach with a Google user, is Google's not good at that at all.
Interesting.
And I did some digging. I was trying to look it up, and people have created through the, I guess, security ops in Google, like custom controls to do all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't want to do all that. Like, it seems so like heavy to have to pour your time into, where it should just be something that Google recognizes and reports. Like, we don't see this as a valid login. Something is happening to this account. You should investigate.
Right.
So anyway, the reason why I brought it up is, as I said, I saw this happen with a particular client. It was a successful login because I think, at least from what I could gather, the user may have allowed the MFA prompt, which is like, one of those things from MFA. What do they call it? MFA exhaustion or whatever. It's like where there's like, yes, another one, I'll tap allow, whatever. It's one of my tools.
Make it go away. Make this stop.
Right. And so anyway, that's what we think happened. It was like someone caught their credentials, the MFA went to them, they likely allowed it, and that user from another country was able to log into their account. So it's kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah.
But Google didn't defend against it or alert anybody. I thought it was kind of strange. If anyone's better at Google than I am, I would love to hear from you on that, because I feel like I'm missing something there. Like, why?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I'll piggyback on your point there, Sam. I was curious when you said Google's not good at that, if you were going to say that they can be overzealous about it sometimes, or if they, like you ended up saying, they basically don't have the same level of like integration to just make it easy to block something like that. My curiosity was because I had a client who very regularly for a while, and it's tapered off, but it happened like a couple months ago. Like her devices will start prompting for authentication. Like you get the prompt in the, in the upper right in notification center, and it says, I forget what it says. Like you need to re-authenticate, right, your Google account, in the integrated, internet account settings, so that it can continue to work in mail. So she'll get something like that on a device, and then she'll try to do it. And as she's, the normal flow is like, okay, well, her password hasn't changed. She has, her MFA set up for either a text code or whatever. So the normal flow is like you agree to the prompt, you go in, it fills in the username and password, and they accept your login. Maybe there's hopefully there's an MFA or 2FA step. And then she's re-authenticated, but that wasn't happening for her. So she was being prompted for her password. The next step was that Google was saying, you have to change your password. Okay, so fine, I'll play along. Like she changed her password. And then the first time this happened, she contacted me at that point and said, I swear, like, then it happened again. Like she was asked, after changing her password and saving the new password, she's asked to change her password again. Like we detected some kind of insecure login or some kind of suspicious login, like you have to change your password. And she's like, I did change my password. So I go in and I confirm it's a complex password. It was recently updated. In fact, it's accepted as her password. And then she's literally prompted again to change the password. And we couldn't figure out why she was getting in this cycle of like, Google insists that you have to change your password again and again. So how we got out of that was like, she had created a passkey as part of that at some point. So we like deleted the passkey and then like basically removed the passkey from her account. After logging in successfully, and then like changing her password one last time, it accepted it. So I made sure to clarify with her, like, I do recommend passkeys. Like, I don't want you to think that, that this means like, oh, I knew passkeys were bad, that's why I never used them. Like you hate when a client learns the wrong lesson, right? But so I clarified, like normally I would say like definitely use the passkey, but in this case, for whatever reason, it seemed like removing the passkey actually got us through this like repeated prompt to change your password. The only thing I could think of, because this then happened again and again, like like 2 or 3 more times total, where she got in this cycle where she needed to re-authenticate. And at a couple points in the process, she had to do the same, like change her password multiple times. The most recent incarnations of this, she didn't have to change her password again, but like, why did it ask to re-authenticate again and again? And the only thing I can think of is, she has like a Mac in Florida that's a desktop, a Mac in Connecticut that's a desktop, and then like a laptop that's shared with her husband as well. So there's like 2 different logins on that. And then an iPhone, and I think also an iPad. So she's got like all the things in all the locations, right? So maybe there's a limit where Google's like no normal person would have, 5 computers in 2 or 3 different states, because she's got like, to go to New York as well. And it like, they have 3 different locations where they might be. So maybe Google's detecting like this thing that you mentioned, this impossible login, or I forget how you put it, impossible travel, where, your computer in Florida is like waking up, checking for mail, and then suddenly you pop up in New York City and you're checking for mail with your iPhone and your Mac. You can't be in both places at once. We're going to shut you down, but it's already authenticated in all those locations. So it's not like someone sitting in Florida logging in for the first time. So right. I was thinking maybe Google's just bad at detecting like that it is possible travel. It's not impossible, but anyway, yeah, if anyone's dealt with something like that, with this exceptional, that's the only thing that's different about this client. I'm like, I have a ton of people with Google accounts, obviously, like I've never seen this before. Also, we don't manage her Google Workspace account. It's managed by the organization she's part of. So I'm like reporting all of the above to their IT, and they're kind of like, I don't know, and I'm like, I don't either. Like, can you help her? Because I've helped her like 3 times with the same thing reoccurring, Anyway, it's just a weird one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've seen some weird things with it to that respect with Google in the MFA or the 2-step verification prompt where I'll log in, it'll ask me for the 2-step, I put it in because it's saved in my 1Password, and then it prompts me again. And what happens is I can't use the same code. I got to wait the 30-second time limit and then use the next code, and then it works. Okay. Right. And that seems to happen a lot. And all I can think of is sometimes I use a VPN, sometimes I don't, sometimes I might be at a coffee shop, and maybe it's, again, detecting these different locations, and this is an admin account that I'm logging in as. Right. But it just seems like Google's like, wait, hold on a second. Oh no, okay, you're good. Like it kind of lets you in eventually. And so right. I just don't know what's happening there. And just to put a bow on my story, Avanon, the company that I think they're now owned by Checkpoint, but the company that manages this stuff, they actually said in their reply that Microsoft has a lot of tools to detect for things like this. Google is not as robust at reporting that. And I'm like, there you go. I mean, yeah, but it's just crazy to me that a company as big as that in so many environments doesn't do that.
I mean, there's a few surprising things. We complain more often about Microsoft, but we did mention recently how like offboarding someone in Google is just like,
yeah,
no one ever thought that would be necessary. Like, it's just like offboarding process. Like, I don't know what you mean. That's like, I feel like how Google treats that. It's just like really not well thought out. I mean, there's a few little things like that, but that's pretty cool what you're describing about Microsoft being able to also make an API call. Like I can imagine, you could in a really secure situation, like have it shut down SSO, like for, other services, or like there's a lot of possibilities there. The fact that Microsoft can do that, and they do seem to be like pretty robust in how they implement this stuff, for all the faults that we complain about, how they keep moving things around and renaming them for like no apparent reason. Right. So I was just reading, like they changed something again. It's like, if you go to admin.microsoft.com, which is like in my brain, that's just always like, I'll always use that. Like, why would I change they changed it to like, it's like admin.microsoft or something, or admin.cloud.microsoft. Yeah. I don't know. It's like a .microsoft address now. It's like, what? Why?
I know. I'm like, what's the friggin' point, man?
It's just like one more way into Copilot. They're just like, let's put Copilot in front of this one too. And it's just so frustrating.
We're now in the cloud.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I should get into it here, but I've been dealing with a lot of, it's not Microsoft's fault in this occasion, but just dealing with some intricacies there that I how we all learn as we go kind of thing. And I'm like learning and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And just, I feel like a lot of that is just, once you get the hang of it, then you can repeat that. And which is the nice thing about being an MSP is like, you kind of learn something in one person's instance, potentially on their dime, I suppose. And then you look like an expert elsewhere when you do it again.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that
economy of scale.
Phase, yeah. I'm in that learning phase for this one particular problem right now, which I probably won't get into, but it's just, it takes a lot sometimes. It's just frustrating. Yeah. And as I get older, I have less patience.
Sam, for our general listeners, how are you making out managing that client that is using Claude for Teams? How is that generally shaking out across the deployment?
Well, they actually upgrade. I think it's the same client that I was thinking of. Is they upgraded to Claude for Enterprise. Mm-hmm. Because they are in healthcare and they need a BAA with Claude to have a business associates agreement and all this stuff. But it's again just a work in progress because AI is so new to like everybody. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like you can find an expert, so to speak, but they're an expert for about 6 months.
5 minutes longer than you. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like everyone's kind of flying as fast as they can to figure things out. And thankfully there are people that have learned ahead of me and I don't have to know as much. But anyway, it's going okay, Jerry. Just kind of Claude keeps releasing new features and changes and trying to keep up with that and everything.
Right. But, and you can get official document signed from Claude if you use Claude for Teams as well. And I know that's roughly around $25 or $30 a seat. Is the Enterprise significantly more than that per seat?
It's similar per seat. Yeah, no, it's similar per seat, but I'm almost 100% positive that BAA is only for enterprise, because I think that's why they had to upgrade.
Okay.
But yeah,
I don't have my notes in front of me, but I did a little bit of research, but and I thought it was also for teams. I know you can't get it for the pro account, and all you got for security with the pro account is just like saying, like, please do not share my data, pretty please.
Pretty
but,
please. And I'll trust you.
Talk is cheap.
Right.
Right.
So, and have you looked at any of the audit logs that you're provided at this higher enterprise level, or some of the granular control where you can supposedly select in the admin portal how long you want the data retention? You can dial it in.
Yeah, but we're also being required to set a third-party audit log. So we have to have something outside of Claude to keep that data retention. But that part is interesting as well. Just, offloading that to a third party. But I haven't investigated too deeply into the Claude logs themselves yet, because we haven't had an issue to kind of look into as of yet.
So you're not talking about people who are auditing this company for compliance. You're actually using a third-party company to keep an audit trail, keep all the documents. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, right. Just a secondary, basically. Yeah, we believe you, Claude, that you're logging everything, but also using another solution to audit that data.
Would you care to just share the general name of that particular?
Oh, yeah, it's actually just Microsoft. Actually, it's so Microsoft Defender and Microsoft Purview suites allow you to grab and capture all that information. But if you have Business Premium from Microsoft, it's another $18 a user to have that.
Wow.
So
per month.
That's not cheap,
per
man.
month, yeah.
No way.
I know. Yeah, per month. Yeah, exactly, Jerry. So it's a lot of dough.
Yeah.
But companies, are willing to pay up for this perceived level of security that they might be getting now.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whether it remains true or not. But
how much you have to pay for real actual security?
We'll see. If you really want us to protect you, it's another $20.
Right. Yeah. No, that's it's amazing too, because like if you try to pitch, your add-on, for $18 a month per user, I feel like they're it's a little harder to get the buy-in on that, but if it's like Microsoft's pricing and they're going to promise, perceived security, then clients are like, oh, okay, well, we need this, so it can be a different value proposition, I guess, depending, but
yeah. It was pretty cool because I was testing on one computer how I tried to copy sensitive data into Claude, and Microsoft Defender basically sends an alert on the screen. Wow. And it says you're not allowed. That looks like protective health information. You're not allowed to paste that in. I was like, oh, wow, that is. And again, that was part of the learning process. Took me a number of hours to figure out how to do that.
How does that work? How does it know what you're about to paste into Claude?
It's basically, so in Microsoft Purview, there are settings where you can say, look for things that look like a social security number or a birth date. And it's the format of,
sure.
Was it 9 characters for social security and all that stuff. So it's trained already. I didn't have to do anything fancy there. I just select that option. Okay. And then you use, that's why you have Defender on the actual system. So Purview looks for that. Defender actually looks for it on the device
reports.
And then reports back. It's pretty
so
cool.
Defender is basically like auditing, like keeping an eye on the clipboard at all times, essentially, or
it seems that way, yeah, because it uses the built-in notification center in Mac OS to tell you that something's wrong.
I see. Who's watching Defender then? It's like somebody needs to keep an eye on Defender. Defender's got access to everything you ever copied and pasted now.
Yeah, who's monitoring the monitors?
Yeah, exactly.
Just to be clear, this works with Mac, right?
Yeah. This is on a Mac.
Talking about. All right, so let me pose this to you. If you're working with a client, because this is a client that I'm dealing with now, and they're talking about possibly using Claude, either at the Teams level or the enterprise level. If some of their licenses for the Office suite are because a lot of businesses, that want to do things on the cheap, they buy a family account and then they can distribute it to 6 users. Will this only work if everybody's bought in on the tier that includes the Microsoft Office suite, or could someone like this particular client that I'm dealing with, who's on Exchange, we're on E2, we got Defender running for the mail, right? Not on the Mac itself.
Not the Mac client, yeah.
Right, not the Mac client. Is it possible to bolt on Defender and still have it work with family license, let's say?
From what I can tell, it's going to cost more. But yeah, like the ones I bought were the suites as an add-on to Business Premium specifically. Right. But they have Microsoft Defender Plan 1, Plan 2, I don't know, whatever they freaking call it these days. And then Microsoft Purview as their own licenses as well. So I think that you can buy those separately. But my guess is they're going to be more money because they're not add-ons. So you might end up spending the same amount of money in the end. Okay. I don't know for sure. I'm just speculating because I think they're more expensive.
And the particular model or the module that was throwing up the alert for you, was that Defender or Purview? And tell me what Purview does again.
Yeah, Purview is like the audit log and the guardrails that are built into the cloud interface, and then Defender is the local client on the Mac that communicates there. And as you can tell, my hand gesture is very fancy if you're watching on YouTube. But yeah, and so they work together to create the rules and then defend locally on the Mac.
Right. So Defender gets the profile delivered by Purview, probably basically like to all the machines that you're managing in Purview, and then Defender says, okay, I'm going to report on that.
I'm just making a snake sound over here. So what I was going to say was, so you need both to get this. You need both components.
Yeah, like Purview will log some stuff, but without Defender, it won't do the on-device capturing.
Could you write a proposal for me and just?
Yeah, it sounds like I'm doing that already right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just take the recording of the show and throw it into Claude.
This is why most of the time I just sit here and I'm quiet. I sometimes feel like Trump at meetings, just like falling asleep. Well, all these guys stand around his desk at the Oval Office and they're saying stuff and doing stuff and they're really animated. And, I'm just like.
Jerry, but no, it's a long blink, Jerry.
They're usually praising him too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so he was just resting his eyes, Yeah.
This
he was
is why
blinking, right? Yeah. Wow.
I felt a little grilled there. I feel like I'm a little, hot under the collar.
Well done, Sam. Yeah, well done. You were in the hot seat there.
I passed.
Yeah, passed the test. And now hopefully Jerry can profit from that. So that's that's a win. That's what we call a win for Jerry.
It's a win-win.
Not a win-win, but yeah, it's a win for our listeners too. Because honestly, and for me, I mean, I'm learning, that this is even possible. I mean, up until now, it's like I knew about Microsoft Defender, which again, that's their name for like 3 different things or whatever. And I knew that there was a Mac client. It's like Defender, like you said, on the email side, like I've used that before as well, on the server side, which is Microsoft Defender, and it's like, okay, or you can also use Microsoft Defender and it like, okay, in the context of running on the Mac and doing something else. And what does it do? I don't really know. And this is one of the options, I guess, that, having that local client, on the Mac can do for you. Yeah.
So Defender itself, because I've never used the Mac product, Sam, would you classify it as an antivirus? No. Right. That's not really what
it actually does have antivirus capabilities. I'm not using it for that. Like through MDM, we're handing out a profile that says how Defender should work, and antivirus is turned off on that because we already have some other tools and stuff. So I just wanted to like laser focus to this.
Please.
What? Oh, I added to the report for you. Yes. Yeah. That's added cost, but I'll definitely do that.
And if you could include those other tools as optional add-ons as well, that would just help round out the proposal, And then
it's like I'm learning on my client's dime and Jerry's learning on my dime. So there we go.
Nice. Well, again, our listeners are benefiting, and so am I. So I do appreciate the tutorial. on security, I've been meaning to bring this up if we're ready to move off of Microsoft
Yeah,
Defender a little bit,
please.
and that's really interesting stuff. I wanted to call attention to this post on the Eclectic Light Company blog, Howard Oakley. And it always some great features there. There's this article, if you want to search for it, it's just how to recognize a genuine password request. And I've always thought about this, like, this is really a vector of concern for me, like that, I don't think clients have a good sense of like what looks right and what doesn't. And for that matter, if a like some kind of form of malware wanted to just make a prompt that looks exactly like a system prompt for your password, that's a real concern. And I don't know of a way we can protect against that. So I kind of wanted to like bring up this topic of just the concern that, as you were saying earlier, Sam, with MFA fatigue, clients are prompted repeatedly sometimes, certainly for passwords, probably lots of clients have seen a keychain access prompt for whatever reason. This still appears, here's an example where it appears in modern times. You're importing passwords from Google Chrome to Safari, or really to your passwords app. You're prompted for your keychain password, I think is what they term it, or your password for your login keychain. And clearly it's asking for your login password for that account typically. Although I think there's exceptions still where the keychain can have a different password technically, but for most people, it would be a Mac login password that it's asking for. And it's a prompt from, the old school, like keychain access, with the allow and always allow options or deny. So that's one example where you can be prompted by the system for your keychain password. Most password prompts these days are either a Touch ID, prompt where you can use the password as an alternative, and Howard Oakley describes this on the site in the article and shows examples of all of these as well. And I think it's a really important thing for clients to like be able to recognize a genuine password reset request, or any password prompt, essentially a password request. Whereas like if malware just like made a prompt that looked like this, they could prompt you to type in your login password, and if it's not a system prompt for your login password, if it just looks like a system prompt and you type your login password, they could just collect that password if they wanted to as malware. And what can you do with that password? Well, you can access the keychain and you can exfiltrate all your passwords, in an automated fashion. I think that's still not protected against. So this is like one of my concerns. And, clients bring this up in protest when we're saying you really need to use a password manager. If there are still some clients who are not on board with that, they're like, well, this is working for me. I just have these sticky notes all over my desk, or I have this Rolodex, or I have, I just use the same password for everything. Or I have a variety of passwords. They're all in my head. That seems to them more secure than giving your passwords, all of your passwords, to a password manager, because to them, the password manager starts to look like a single point of failure. If somebody gets into the password manager, what happens? Well, all bets are off. But I explained to them, well, it would be really hard to attack iCloud, passwords, iCloud keychain, because, like if someone wants access to your iCloud passwords, they either need like local access to your computer or your iPhone, and they need to know your, login password or your passcode. So keep those devices secure, keep that password secure, those passcodes. So that's the way you mitigate that. Or if they're going to attack it on the cloud side of things, they need to know your iCloud, username and password. And they also need to know the Mac login password or the passcode to one of your existing devices, because that's what's also used to encrypt those passwords in addition to your iCloud, your Apple account login password. And of course, they need to also, I left this part out, but they need to get through the multi-factor authentication. So they need access to one of your existing devices, or they need to trick you into relaying a code by SMS. So there's a lot of hurdles there for someone getting into this. But if somebody downloads malware and they think it's like, the free version of Photoshop or something, and they double click on it and it says, welcome to Photoshop, please enter your Mac login password. Like in theory, that could just exfiltrate all those passwords pretty easily. So That is a concern, and I don't know how you mitigate that other than user training, and we all know how well that goes, which is usually not very well.
What about Windows Defender?
Does that protect you? I don't know.
I don't know, Sam.
What you're asking me, literally?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Will it protect against malicious code like that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to some degree, yeah, but I think what we have to worry about is those that are ahead of the curve, probably, right? Like those that get behind, or the tools like Defender and others get behind something that's a new attack vector, and then, as Joe said, all bets are off at that point.
Benjamin Morales in the chat brings this up with, he basically validates what the clients are saying. They're not wrong with password managers. They're not all built the same. Exactly right. I always recommend, like I mentioned, iCloud Keychain. I'm talking in, a lot of times I'm in the residential market, so that's like where I go first. But in the business side of things, we recommend one password, of course. And I clarify, as I've said before, I'm not saying just use one password for everything. I'm saying use the 1Password app. I always clarify the 1Password app. And that's the password manager that I recommend on the business side. And I always clarify with clients if they ask this question, like, what happens if somebody gets into that? Well, I've done a pretty deep dive into the 1Password security model, and it looks pretty secure to me. I mean, I'm not an expert, but like if you read their white paper on how this is architected, it seems pretty secure. And yet, you can socially engineer it if like I've helped a client get back into their own admin account for 1Password. And I'm glad that they have an option to do that 1Password support can help you. But usually, again, it's a matter of like, you have to have a foothold, like you have to be logged in somewhere, and or you have to know the master password or whatever. But if you lose some component of that, like you don't have access to this, security key, or you don't have access to the two-factor. Here's where I've had to get access is resetting the two-factor authentication. As I've also complained about on the show, this is another kind of like, problem area for the industry, which is like 1Password back in the day. I don't know if it's a little bit better now, but I think overall MFA has gotten a little bit better. But in the earlier days of like, using a one-time password as your MFA method, they would just suggest like an app. They'd be like, I don't know, Authy's probably good, is kind of like what 1Password would say, or you could use Google Authenticator or whatever. So clients would just say, all right, whatever, just, give me the first one on the list. They'd set it up, and then they get a new phone down the road and they lose access to their authenticator. Sam, this happened to you, right? With your Tesla.
Like, you remember. Wow. Yeah.
I remember. Yeah. It's like, I can't unlock my car because I got a new phone. This is insane, and that's like, if you like, chances are in many cases, you still have the old phone. And luckily you can go in and say like, oh, I'm going to port my 2FA codes over to my new phone. Thankfully I still have the old phone. But the whole point of a backup is like, you can migrate from your iCloud backup to a new phone. When your old phone stops working, it won't turn on, or an update fails, or whatever the case may be. And okay, so you've got the new phone set up and it's mostly there, but your authenticator app, inherently like doesn't back up in the same way. And again, asterisk, maybe this has changed. I don't know what the default is now. If you set up a Google Authenticator account, I think they want you to back it up to Google. So like you just have to log into your Google account on the new one, and your password, your one-time passwords are restored to the new phone. But there are definitely lots of cases where clients lose access entirely, and we just have to reset their multi-factor authentication on Microsoft Authenticator, for example. This happened to a client with 1Password where they don't even know what app they were using, because they did it themselves and they didn't have us involved. And so they set up two-factor authentication at 1Password's urging, and they got some app and they didn't write down what it was, and there's no record. This is the hole in the process that I've called attention to, where like you can just use whatever authenticator you want, as if a client is informed enough to choose an authenticator and remember the choice that they made. You know what I mean? So there's no record of like 1Password doesn't say, go ahead and open up the Authy app. They're just like, open up your authenticator. And the clients are like looking for authenticators. They might stumble into some scam one where they have to pay $50 a year for some authenticator app on the App Store. And then it's not set up and they don't have their codes in there anyway. So they get in these edge cases where they lose access. And 1Password thankfully does have a way to reset their multi-factor authentication. And again, you usually need to know something about it. but that's also potentially a way in. If a hacker says, you know, well, cool, I have this backup of their computer, you know, I have their master password stored in plain text here, or I have their security keys saved in a PDF on their desktop or whatever. Let me use social engineering to get back into their, you know, to get access to the rest of their passwords. It's possible. Benjamin goes on to say, look at what happened with LastPass. These bozos keep getting hacked and exposing customer data. Yes. So the recent thing I think today is that LastPass revealed more about a recent, you know, breach where customer data was exposed, not passwords in this case, thankfully, but like their, you know, I think it's like their, you know, full names of their users. I don't know if it's credit card details, like, you know, mailing addresses or home addresses, whatever else, phone numbers and things like that through Salesforce, through a third-party app that had an API key to get into their Salesforce or whatever. So LastPass was compromised in some form. Thankfully, not passwords in this case, but they have like other. I think LastPass had one where some of their passwords were insecure because of how they were originally stored with something that was like an insufficient hash or salt or whatever. I don't know. There's been cases where password managers have been exposed, even decent ones like LastPass, but certainly there's lots of other options that customers stumble into. And, you know, they're not wrong to be concerned about the fact that if a password manager is compromised, that's, you know, that's the keys to the kingdom. My concern is just if you have local access or a client stumbles into malware and it can simply prompt for the login password and use it however it wants behind the scenes. Jerry asked about Microsoft Defender. Maybe Defender could do this. Apple could do this. Apple could say, we know what the login password is. At least we can store a hash of what that password is. If we see a, you know, if we see a user typing in to a, you know, whether it's a, you know, insecure text field or even like a, you know, like a masked text field of any sort, in theory, Apple could say, you may not want to like type that password here, you know, like they could stop that from happening, or they could either tell the user like that, you know, you shouldn't do this right now, or they could just simply like not deliver that the keystrokes to the malware somehow. Like that would be a pretty sophisticated thing for Apple to stop, and I think there'd be like a lot of overhead in that. But that's my only like technical solution to that. I can't see any other way around it other than like, I mean, you just train people to look for a legitimate password prompt and to know when to expect a password prompt. But again, I don't think you can rely on people to keep themselves secure in that way.
I think you're right in a lot of ways, especially, you know, on the residential side too. It's just people not knowing unless they have someone like you or Jerry or me to guide them. And there's no formal training really that residential people are going to take. I can say that on the business side with like, as hokey as they are, and I do think that they are kind of goofy in a way, like those tools like that Know Before Provide and things like that, where they do the end user training. As goofy as they are, I have found that people are a lot more vigilant these days. Like we sent out an email from a new email address called reports@hcsonline.com and sent that out with a quarterly report that I wanted to send. And we got so many emails to our ticketing system saying, hey guys, is this legit? This doesn't look right and all this stuff.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, that's actually a good thing. I was a little bit annoyed. We got all this influx of tickets, but I was like, yeah, that's kind of good that these people are like, I should be scared of this, you know, like in a way, unfortunately, they have to have a little fear in them to really understand that this is a major deal. But I think it's kind of interesting what you said about the built-in security tool on Apple. I know it doesn't exist, but being able to detect an insecure window and the hash of your password being typed in. That would be pretty badass. But
I mean, if your password is the word password, or your password is the word like let me in, I've seen that one before. Or that's not a good example though. I'm trying to think of one. Like let's say your password is something like it's the word plant. I'm just looking at a plant. If it's like my password is plant, right? It's like every time I type the word plant, Apple's gonna be like, don't type that word, So it's not a perfect solution, but Apple could potentially detect, like a prompt for a password. Like if the dialog box says the word password in it, like then be careful about what the user is typing. Don't just like, I mean, you probably should make sure they don't type their password in email either. But, technically speaking, I can sort of like architect this in my mind, and it makes sense along the lines of the paste jacking protection in Terminal that's like relatively recent in Tahoe, where it doesn't like interpret the commands you're typing and detect that like this is a suspicious, like command that you're, pasting into Terminal. Based on the exact command, but it uses like AI to sense whether this looks suspicious based on, you're not a developer, you've never used the terminal before, you copied and pasted it from a website. Like those are the signals that would have Terminal pop up a thing saying like, are you sure you want to do this? Or we're going to stop you from getting yourself in trouble. And maybe it could use similar kind of machine learning to, protect the user from typing their password into a scam, pop-up. Because again, that seems like a pretty big concern. Like if malware gets pushed out there to lots of users and it's requesting login passwords, like, that could be an issue. So.
Yeah, this conversation is going to be ever ongoing for all of us, but very interesting topics indeed. And I agree with Benjamin Morales calling LastPass a bunch of bozos.
Right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to another episode of Command and Control Power. We really appreciate you listening week after week and your support, especially to our patrons. Find out more at commandcontrolpower.com. And if you'd like to support us and get access to more great content, click on support. And thanks again. Okay, quick like edit point here in the outro. Do you want to just keep recording in this show and Jerry, you can split it in post kind of thing? Because I didn't make a second link.
Well, when it goes to YouTube,
yep,
it's just all one blob.
Does that matter? I mean,
well, for the 6 people that look at the YouTube feed.
Okay. I mean, does it really matter though?
Yeah. I mean, it would be easier to split it.
Cleaner to split it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mike says we don't have a second link. All right. Let me make the link while everybody.
All right. We're working on it, guys. Live. Yeah. Let's do it live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Can you guys vamp a little bit and just keep this show going here? Let's see. Live stream.
Yeah, man. I can always keep the conversation going. As long as talking in your ear doesn't break your concentration of creating the new live stream.
So the name of the
just joking.
The name of the art installation it's in the Hudson Valley is Hudson River Valley, Storm King.
Oh, Storm King. Yes, thank you. Yeah. You reminded me last time as well. Yep.
Yeah, Sam, it's a great place to go.
Yeah.
I recommend
it's in Hudson Valley. Well, Hudson Valley in general is a beautiful area, right? So
yeah, and it's like there's picnic grounds and there's lots of walking that you would do among all these different art installations. You could kind of like make a day of it, like a Sunday or something. If you're,
sounds cool.
It's a bit heady, I mean, you're just kind of like looking at these big monolithic things that are mostly modern art, but it's very cool the way it's all presented. It's pretty. Go online sometime.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
All right, so this is going in our comments here. So anybody listening live, you can see the link in the comments, and hopefully just copy and paste to make it over there.
That's the YouTube link, right?
I can do it. Yeah, exactly. I think I just put the YouTube. Did I put it in there? Yeah, it's the YouTube link. I can also just send this out to our audience on Patreon. Thanks everybody for just like listening to me do this live.
Yeah, this is what I tune in for, is the after show.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Yeah, exactly. This is where the magic happens here. Boom. Okay, that's going out by Patreon as well. Good. I will see you guys over in the second link. Oh, and let's see.
Ben says, I'd like to have it.
Oh,
I have the link.
you have the YouTube link, but I can send you I'll send you the other one, the super secret squirrel link.
Yeah,
here.
that's our super secret squirrel link.
That's coming into our private chat here. Okay, you got that too. Yeah, what did Ben say? Clicking around. Yeah, that's a good point. He says the hash check thing. The attacker already has root access, and they're social engineering the user. There are easier ways to credential harvest with that level of access.
True.
Probably, but they still would need the login password for to access the keychain, right? So, yeah, interesting. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, Ben, on how that could work. Yeah, to be continued. All right, I'll see you guys over at the other link.
Later.
Sounds great. Thank you.